Hello everyone, Marilyn here, and welcome to my segment of the Stamp Anything Summer event. For this session, we're going to use the Joyride Digi, and she's just the cutest little thing, little girl with her hair flying, zooming along to her happy place in her little Volkswagen Beetle. I want to do this car in a pink, so I'm going to start with my base color. Quite often I use my base color and I color the whole area. It seems to, in my mind, it gets the paper a little more saturated and the colors blend a little bit better. I don't do a heavy coat, just a quick coat, cover everything. And then I start coloring from dark to light. So my darkest shade that I'm going to use is RV52. And I go into wherever the shadows are the deepest, which usually is a corner. Do a little bit on the wheel wells, up from the bumper, the tail light, and around the wheel well. Under her arm is another V, above her arm. Just basically wherever you want a shadow to appear. Down the car and around the outside of the wheel well. Next color I use is RV02. And it's basically going over exactly what we did, but extending it out a little bit further. There's little corners here, which is the underside of the car. I didn't see those at first. So again, around the wheel well, up from the bottom, underneath the handle, down the sides of the door, okay, and the next color is RV00. This is my favorite pink marker. I like the shade. It's so soft. It blends really nice. And so I just take the color and extend it beyond what we've already done. This you can start building your color, going up a little bit further. At this stage, it just looks messy. Okay, next color is RV10. And I always go back to where I started and then begin bringing it out. And I want to leave the area inside the door, you know, towards the back, up above the wheel well. I want to leave that a little bit lighter. Okay, last color, we go back to the beginning color, which was RV000, and I focus more on the lightest areas. I still go back into what I did though, because it blends it out a little better. You don't want any harsh lines. Sometimes those light colors need a little bit more of a push. They don't blend as well as you like. Around the wheel well. All right. So that's the first coat. Many times when I'm coloring, if it needs more work, I will go in and I will redo everything that I've just done. Same colors. So I start back again with the RV52. And I just make everything a little bit darker. Around the wheel wells. There's a nice corner. Her arms. I don't know about you, but I turn my paper a lot when I color. It's easier than turning me, so. Okay, RV02. And again, I just go out a little bit further from where I was already. It's blending. And now RV 000. I have to tell you, this is my first time doing a video, and I thought I would be better at talking and working than I am. I have a hard time thinking and doing at the same time, so apparently my multitasking skills aren't as good as I thought they were. Okay, next color is RV10. Okay, I went over a little bit by the tires, but it doesn't matter. We're going in with a very dark gray, so it will be fine. Last color is the color we started with, RV 000. All right, we'll let this dry a little bit. And we're going to go back in with a pencil. So next we'll start on the tires. And for the outside of the tire, I'm using a C7. Oh, and now I see how dirty my markers are. I should have cleaned these before we started. So if you're way neater than me, look away. And I go around the outside. I rarely use black, hardly ever. That marker has maybe been used like 5 or 6 times. I find it really strong. And very often you can make things look black with just the darker, like C7, C8, C10. Okay, about that far, and we're done with that color. Now C5. Oh, another dirty marker. Pull it around so you blend it out. Same with the front tire. We'll probably go a little bit further. So we've probably got about 3/4 of the tire colored at this point. And the last color for the tires is C3. And I just pull it into the rest of the tires so it blends in with the other colors we did. So keep the lines soft. And I always go back into the tires a little bit. It seems to, I actually think it lifts some of the darker colors out. All right, now we'll do the rims. So for that, I will start with C5, and I will go around the outside of the rim and around the other one. Oh, I'm still with C5. Got ahead of myself there. Do the small one as well. And now we'll use C3. So with C3, I just go to the back where I started from. Blend out that smidge that I made. And same with the inside. So that when you're done, you should actually be able to see, you know, the change in colors. It's lighter towards the outside. Oh, I got ahead of myself there again. I colored the whole thing in. I want to see one. It appears as though I've lost C1. And here we go. I hate that. You know it's there. You just used it, but you can't find it. I always think there's little gremlins in this room. They come in and they move things around, or sometimes they just take them away. This should have been lighter over on this side. I colored that in with C5 and it shouldn't have been. I'll just take my colorless blender and I'll just go in and I'm going to try and lift some of that color out. Much too dark. There. Now we'll do the bumpers, the top of her car, steering wheel, the seat, the handle, and the front bumper. And I'll start with C5. So for the bumper, I just go around the back and across the bottom. Same with this one. And the seat, I go from the corners, I make those the darkest and pull it along into the front of it. The seat, same thing, down behind her arm. The steering wheel, I'll do the section that goes into the engine or whatever it does. I'm not a car person, I don't know. I just know the color of my car, that's it. Okay, and the handle, I will take it from the very bottom here and pull it up. Now we'll go in with C3. And we'll just blend this down. Now would be a good time to tell you a joke. It's very quiet. It's very quiet in my room. But I'm not very good with jokes. I can't remember them. And sometimes I can't remember what I did yesterday. Pull it down. I don't have to remember much when I'm in my craft room. As long as I know where my markers and paper are, that's okay. And last color will be C1. This image is very small. It's easy to lose the colors. Oh, and the bumpers. All right. So with the pink, with the RV02, you can make these little centers of the hubcaps gray if you like. I'm going to do them pink. And while I had the pink out, I had cut out some hearts from the coffee builder die. And I'm just going to use them as embellishments on the card. So I have 4 of them. And I have taken tipped them all over the way they're supposed to be. And I will color like when looking at me and it's facing up, the right side of each of the hearts. This is very quick, it's just a little embellishment for the card. Then I go in with a lighter color, which will be RV. Let's do RV10. It's not much of a difference, a little bit, but okay. Then I'm going to use stickles. I love stickles. I like that little bit of glitz on everything, and I actually use them a lot. This one is it's Stardust stickles. And I want to do these now so that they are dry for when we go to put them on the card. Okay. Okay, I'm just going to get a clean piece of paper and set those aside. And we will let's do the windshield on the car. For that, I used B11. And I just pull little flicks of color in towards the little girl. And then it's quite dark, so I go in with my colorless blender and blend it out a little bit. It softens the edges for me. And while I have that out, I see I went over the line. I'll take this out where her arm is. Okay, now we'll do the tail light. So for that, I will use RV02 and RV42. Start with RV202, which is the darker, although there's not a great deal of difference. And then the top is RV42. Okay, now I want to brighten up some of the areas on this car and the gray areas. So I take a pencil, it's just a white Prismacolor pencil, and it doesn't have to be sharp. I actually prefer it when it's dull. And in the brightest areas, I go in and I push the color out. And I get very light as I go out, because you don't want to make it a muddy gray. In the pink areas, this should be quite light on this area. On the wheel wells, I like to do a little bit here. And I always stay between the lines. Like if you go over the lines, it muddies them up a little bit, and you don't end up with nice crisp black lines. This one. And then I do the little areas on the bumper. If you find you get too much of the white, it will erase. Some of it will erase with just like a white eraser. You can get rid of quite a bit of it. And then the front of the tire. And maybe this inner rim. Back tire will do the same thing. And just feather those lines out so you don't have a harsh stop and start with the pencil. And a little bit more in the car right here, and the door. There, I would say the car is finished. So let's move on and do her shirt. And for that, I have done it in greens. I used YG17, YG13, and YG11. So we'll start with the darkest color, and I do the bottom of her shirt, a little corner on the sleeve, the seam on her other sleeve, and then I blend with YG13. And the last color is YG11. There, I think that part is done. So now her hair. For her hair, I start with E41, 43, 44, 47, and 49. Those are the colors I'm going to use for her hair. And when I do hair, I always color the whole head with the base color. And for that, it's E41. So I go over everything with E41, just a quick little coat. I shouldn't say quick little coat, it's not a little coat. I don't want the paper to get too saturated with these colors, because when we put in our hair strokes, we don't want it to spread out. We just want it to stay where it is. Next color is E43. And I always take a part. Like for me, I think this line here is her part. So these bangs will go this way. You always follow the shape of the head and the lines. And this, on this side, goes this way. And you follow the shape. So I'll start with her bangs. That's the easiest. And this color, the E43, the strokes are longer and there's more of it than there is with the darker colors. In this area, we go down. And up from her ear. So you want to see a little bit of the E41. You want to still be able to see some of that. That'll create the highlights for the hair. And you can follow the drawn lines. Ooh, I got a real blast of color there. And here I will try to follow this long line here and then make a couple go down from there. And I turn it and I bring in a little bit from the bottom. But still, make sure that you can see some of the, like a fair amount of the E41, sorry. Next color is the E44. So from her part of her bangs to the back of her head. And again, not too dark. I always feel that you can go in and you can add more, but it's very hard to take it away if you've put too much color in. And I'm fairly heavy-handed when I do this, so I'm working on that. All right, then we will go in with E47. And it's the same, we're doing the same thing except fewer strokes and they're shorter. Her bangs. Yes, yeah, I'm wishing this wasn't quite as dark, but it is what it is. I always say I don't make mistakes, I create opportunities. And I have a lot of opportunities. Okay, the last color is E49, and it's very dark, so just use it sparingly. I would say it's mostly for like the shadows, the deepest, darkest shadows. I'll pull a couple down from her face. There, I would say that's fine. I wish I hadn't gone so dark on the bangs, but it is what it is, and it's very difficult to adjust the dark to the light. You could go over it with the E41 again, but it really doesn't, it blends the color. It doesn't take it out. So I like to be careful with that. You don't want to muddy it up too much. But it will blend it out a bit, and you can soften a lot of lines if you got them too strong or too harsh. Okay, I think the hair is done. I'm happy with that. Now we'll move on to the skin. So I will use E04, E11, E00, E21, and E000, and R20. So E04, it's very dark, and I don't use a lot of it. I go into those corners, the V's, and maybe a little bit down her face, just a touch under her neck, under her each sleeve, maybe the bottom of her ear. And faces is another thing that I base the whole thing. I should have done this before I went in with the E4. Doesn't matter. I base the whole thing in the lightest color. So it's E000. And these little people have the cutest eyes, but you have to leave a little bit of white around them. And if I'm going to mess them up, this is usually where I do it. And I have to go in and clean it up with my colorless blender. then E11, and I go over the E4. Go up on her ears. And again, this is for the darkest areas. So under her sleeves, around this side of her face. And her face is very small. So you don't, we seem to be using a lot of colors and not going over a big area. Then E00, and just extend it out a little bit more, a little bit further. And you could put a little shadow over her nose if you like. E21. I'm still looking for the ultimate skin combinations. I keep trying different things. My skin tends to get a little too dark, too orange. Then E000. And this will, I go over everything again. And this, again, saturates the paper, and it will lift some of that orangeness out of the face. She's just the cutest little thing. Those little eyes get me every time. Okay. Now I like to, with faces especially, I like to do the same as we did with the car. I like to go back in and do it all over again. So start with the E04. And down the side of her face. I don't use as much. I don't want it to be too intense. E11. And I go, it's exactly what we did before, except maybe I don't take the color out as far. E00. E21. And then E000 again. Okay, then I will do her. Actually, before I do that, I'm going to do the corners of her tongue. I always do them in E04, just a dot on each side. And then for the cheeks, I go in with R20 and I pull color from the top of the cheek down and around. And if you want them to be really bright, you can just dab it a little bit more into the fullness of her cheek area. And then I go back in with E000 and I push it back. While I have the R20, I should have done the tongue. That's what I go in and I blend the rest of it with. It's just, it's so tiny, you can hardly even notice that I've done anything. Then I take my colorless blender and I try to clean up that eye area. I seem to always work my way in towards there and not leave a nice perfect circle, so this will do the trick. Now for her eye color, I used B41. And I go from the top of the eye and I just flick it down, both sides. To finish it off, I take a gel pen, a white gel pen, and I just put a little dot on each side of her eye. Same side, I do it on the same side. Whoa, that's too big, but oh well. Another one of those, it is what it is things. Okay, I think she is done. And at this point, I would go in with that colorless blender again and just kind of go over. And I see I've gone outside of the lines in a couple of places. So I will fix that. And we are done. So now we can go ahead and assemble the card. Well, almost assembled the card. For this, I have used the Shaker Basics oval die. And I cut the outside oval out of yellow. The inside is white. I'll just show you what I've prepared here. And I took a white card base and I have a yellow backing. And the paper is from the Welcome Spring packet. So this is kind of what we're going to do. Now, you can put it, you can put it sideways if you like, so that it opens like this. Or I decided I'd like to do it like this. So this is how it will open. And she'll sit in here. Like this. So with this white piece of paper, I took some Tumble Gloss Distress ink. This is a color, I use it a lot for making shadows behind images. So I just rub it in. I should actually hold it like this because this is the way I'm going to be using it. So darker in the middle and then just fade it out to the outside. I like this. It gives it, it grounds the image because it looks like it's shading and shadowed. Okay, so then you can place the image to see if it's far enough, and I think that's fine. Now I will glue the yellow outline to the white. I need to find better pins. The ones I have get rusty inside the glue, and then it shoots out that awful gob of brownish glue. Doesn't really matter, it still works, but and then press it down. The liquid adhesives are so nice for being able to give you a little bit of play time for something like this, so you can make sure that you've got all the white covered and it's facing the right way. I'm thinking this is good. All right, so we can now do the sentiment. So for the sentiment, what I did, I used the Carol Let the Good Times Roll, and I already have that stamped. And I used the sentiment strip die, and I like these dies so much because they fit the sentiments on all the stamps just perfectly. Now, I'm not sure how you do it, but I'm a lazy card maker. So instead of having to worry and make sure I get the stamp exactly straight and then have to cut it straight or whatever, I make a template, and basically all it is I've done it with the die, and I just keep this in with my package of dies. And so when I go to use that die, I've already got the template there. And just place it over the sentiment, and I line it up to where I think is even. Press the tape down, press the die down into it, and you can tell when it's in there secure, and then I put another piece of tape over it. Could have a struggle finding my tape. Here's my tape. There, and then I run it through my die cut machine, and like magic, I've got the sentiment cut out. And it really is, for me, a very quick way to do the sentiment. Okay, now let's put we'll start putting the card together. So for the sentiment, I always use these little 1/8 inch strips, and they're just perfect for these sentiments and the die. And I just put it in the middle. So there. And I'll add my pop dots. I get laughed at when I go to anything and put dots down because everybody says you don't need to put that many on, but I don't like my cards to fall apart. So yes, I do put a lot on, and I'm trying to be careful here. I would probably put more on if if it wasn't here for the class. Okay, and I'll set that aside. Now I already assembled this part to save some time. So again, the paper is from the Welcome Spring Pack and just a piece of yellow cardstock and a white backing. And we can start to put it together. Normally I use one of those big pink guns with the big rolls of tape, but I found that it was knocking into my camera, so I went with one of these small tape runners, and I'm really impressed with how they're really good and sticky. They weren't like that when I first started stamping, or I didn't feel that they were anyway. So line it up, get it as even as you can, place it down, and we'll remove the dots from our image. And I would like her to go right about here. She's just so cute. I love this image. This make a great card for a young girl who's just getting her driver's license. And the sentiment. I will just put it across the top here at an angle. There. And the card is done. So I want to thank you for joining me for this segment, and stay tuned because there's lots more to come. Some really cute digis coming your way. Thanks very much, and see you again. Final step for finishing the card is taking the 4 small pink hearts that we did previously. With liquid adhesive, I've glued 3 to the bottom and 1 to the top, and your card is finished. Thanks for taking the time to join me for this session today. Stay tuned. The team has more sessions and new images coming your way. Thank you and have a great day.